What if the biggest problems in society exist because the people making decisions do not suffer the consequences of being wrong? What if much of the advice we follow comes from people who have nothing to lose if it fails? And what if true fairness, wisdom, and progress only exist when risk is shared equally? These are the central ideas behind Skin in the Game by Nassim Nicholas Taleb, a book that challenges modern systems of power, expertise, and responsibility. Taleb begins with a simple but radical principle. Never trust someone who does not have skin in the game. Skin in the game means having personal risk. It means that when you make a decision, you also bear the consequences. Without this balance, systems become fragile, unethical, and dangerous. When people gain rewards without exposure to loss, they behave recklessly. When losses are passed on to others, injustice follows. Throughout history, Taleb argues, societies functioned because risk was shared. Leaders fought alongside soldiers. Builders lived in the structures they designed. Merchants traded with their own capital. Failure carried consequences. Success carried responsibility. Modern systems, however, often separate decision makers from risk. Executives receive bonuses for short-term gains, while others suffer long-term losses. Experts offer predictions without accountability. This imbalance creates fragility. One of the book's core arguments is that asymmetry of risk is the root of many social and economic disasters. When profits are privatized and losses are socialized, incentives become distorted. People take excessive risks because they do not pay the price when things go wrong. Taleb argues that this structure rewards incompetence and punishes responsibility. Taleb connects skin in the game to moral philosophy. Ethics, he argues, are meaningless without personal cost. True morality requires sacrifice. If a belief, policy, or recommendation does not affect the person promoting it, that belief should be questioned. Wisdom emerges when words and actions align with consequences. Another major theme in Skin in the Game is the difference between theory and practice. Taleb criticizes intellectuals who build models detached from reality. These thinkers operate in abstraction, insulated from real-world feedback. In contrast, practitioners who engage directly with reality learn through trial and error. Experience creates wisdom. Exposure creates understanding. Taleb introduces the concept of the Lindy effect, which suggests that ideas and practices that have survived a long time are more likely to endure. Traditions, customs, and heuristics that persist do so because they work, even if we do not fully understand why. Skin in the Game acts as a filter over time, removing bad ideas and preserving useful ones. The book also explores the danger of centralized power. Centralization concentrates risk. When a centralized system fails, the consequences are massive. Decentralized systems spread risk and allow failure without collapse. Taleb argues that decentralization is inherently anti-fragile. Small failures prevent large disasters. Taleb applies this thinking to politics, economics, and institutions. He criticizes bureaucracies where decision-makers are protected from the consequences of their policies. Rules imposed from a distance often ignore local knowledge and real-world complexity. Those closest to the problem usually understand it best. Skin in the Game ensures humility and caution. Another important idea in the book is the difference between true courage and performative courage. True courage involves personal risk. Performative courage involves signaling bravery without danger. Taleb argues that modern culture often rewards signaling over substance. Real strength requires exposure. Without risk, there is no authenticity. Taleb also discusses the concept of minority rule. Small groups with strong incentives can influence larger systems. When a small group has skin in the game, they often shape outcomes more effectively than large passive groups. This explains how certain cultural practices, norms, or technologies spread. Commitment outweighs numbers. The book strongly criticizes modern education and credentialism. Degrees and titles create an illusion of expertise without accountability. Taleb values doers over talkers. Someone who succeeds repeatedly under real risk demonstrates competence more reliably than someone with impressive credentials but no exposure to failure. Another recurring theme is survival over optimization. Taleb argues that survival is the first rule of life. Systems optimized for efficiency often remove buffers, redundancy, and safety margins. These systems appear successful until they collapse. Skin in the game encourages conservative decision-making that prioritizes survival over short-term gains. Taleb applies skin in the game to personal life as well. Taking responsibility for choices builds character. Avoiding responsibility weakens it. Growth requires exposure to consequences. Shielding yourself from failure delays learning. Personal integrity means standing behind your decisions. The book also explores the moral dimension of risk transfer. Forcing others to bear risk without consent is unethical. True justice requires symmetry. Those who benefit from upside must also accept downside. This principle applies to finance, politics, relationships, and leadership. Taleb emphasizes that wisdom often comes from humility. People with skin in the game quickly learn their limitations. Reality corrects arrogance. Those without exposure remain overconfident. Skin in the game is nature's way of enforcing truth. Another important idea is that long-term success requires endurance, not brilliance. People who survive many cycles of risk develop practical wisdom. They learn what not to do. Avoiding ruin matters more than chasing success. You cannot benefit from opportunity if you are destroyed by failure. Taleb also argues that modern society often rewards narratives over results. Storytelling replaces accountability. Explanations are valued more than outcomes. Skin in the game cuts through narratives by focusing on consequences. Results matter more than intentions. The book connects strongly to Taleb's earlier work on antifragility. Systems with skin in the game naturally become anti-fragile. They adapt, learn, and improve through feedback. Systems without skin in the game accumulate hidden risks until collapse. Taleb warns that removing skin in the game removes learning. When mistakes carry no cost, they are repeated. When failure is painful, behavior changes. Pain is information. Skin in the game ensures that information is absorbed. The deeper message of skin in the game is that fairness, trust, and progress depend on shared risk. Societies break down when responsibility is separated from decision-making. Strength emerges when incentives align with consequences. The big takeaway from Skin in the Game is simple but powerful. Never trust advice from someone who has nothing to lose. Seek alignment between words and actions. Design systems where decision-makers share risk. In your own life, take responsibility for outcomes. Integrity grows where exposure exists. So where in your life do you have skin in the game? Where are you protected from consequences? And where might taking responsibility lead to growth? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoyed this summary, like this video, subscribe to 10-Minute Books, and tap the bell so you never miss our weekly deep dives into life-changing books. Remember, real wisdom is earned through exposure, no risk, no learning.